What's going on, guys? Brooks Anderson bringing on another video today. Super thankful to walk away with the top 10 on my first Bassmaster Open this past week on Clarksville. Got some awesome content from y'all through practice and actually both of the tournament days. So going to be bringing all that to y'all today. I'm actually going to be doing a voiceover style where I'm breaking down why I'm picking out certain baits and just kind of give a little context to what I'm doing. But like I said, we had some crazy conditions last week. Had a little bit of a snowstorm, a lot of temperatures below that 32 degrees. My boat actually froze to the trailer. My trim was giving me issues. A lot of just crazy stuff going on. It usually doesn't happen due to those cold temperatures, but had a pretty good first day. Ended up having about 17-ish pounds. And then day two came back with 20 pounds, 6 ounces with a 6-pound kicker. So had two main styles of approach to this tournament. Had a deep bite, kind of a more dish-related bite that pretty much the whole field was keyed in on. And then I also had some shallow fish that definitely played both day one and day two for me. So definitely some really cool content. In today's video, we're going to touch on all that good stuff. Like I said, we'll be doing a voiceover, kind of breaking down why I was picking up certain baits, making those adjustments and move throughout practice and the tournament. So definitely going to be some cool stuff coming at y'all today. Y'all stay tuned. All right, guys, we are blasting off day one of practice. Definitely a extremely foggy morning. This is about 7:20, 7:30. Just going to go ahead and start getting after it. Pull up in the first ditch right here. I'm checking a few of the spots I found in pre-practice just to see the size of those fish and their aggression. Throwing a Demiki rig for most of the morning right here, just trying to gauge where these fish are set up and just kind of the aggression levels of these. And you can see right here, I'm about to hook up on the first one. This one isn't too big, just about 2.5 pound spot, but definitely a good clue to what these fish are set up, the depth, and kind of the aggression, like I was talking about, how these fish are feeding this morning. So definitely a big clue to get our day started right here. I was just throwing a 3/8 ounce queen tackle head right there. Paired with that is, I think, a Echo right there from Cast. Then I'll slide out to a little bit deeper ditch in the main lake. I'm dropping on a few right here, I believe about 30-ish, 40 feet right here. Just checking out some other zones, like I said, that I found in pre-practice, just trying to gauge how big those fish are. So I think this one right here is another 2.5 pounder. As you can see, that fog rolled in and it's super dense for about 2 hours. I wasn't going to run very far just because of the limited visibility. Didn't want to run into anything, just wanted to be safe. But definitely that fog was kind of hurtling day one, not being able to move around that morning of practice. So caught that other 2-pounder right there. I actually see a wolf pack of them right here roaming close to the top. I believe these are about 3 or 3.5 pound spots. So definitely still in a lot of the areas that I found initially in pre-practice right here. I'll take a little bit to fight this fish in right here just because the boat's going by. I don't want to give away too much to that competitor, but definitely this is the biggest fish of the day so far for me. It's probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock, so you can see me looking over my shoulders, making sure coast is clear, but we're about to flip this one in there. I think this one's about 3.5. Yep. Nice spot right there. Just keep getting these clues and pointing us in the right direction. So at this point, we've checked a couple of ditches. Definitely a lot of active fish in them with the low light, kind of low pressure, cloudy conditions we got this morning. But with this amount of boats and these amount of talented anglers, a lot of these guys are going to find these same ditches. So just trying to get a handful of them to fall back on in the tournament if I do need a quick limit or anything like that. Jumped across the lake right here. The wind's picking up pretty good. Definitely had some serious wind roll in kind of mid portion of day one. I think this is another 2.5, 3 pound spot. So definitely catching a lot of spotted bass right now, which is cool. But on Clarksville, you definitely need largemouth in your bag to be in that top 10 and be towards the top of the leaderboard. We ended up catching a couple of largemouth on day one in practice, but really started dialing in what those fish look like on live scope towards the end of the week, and that was a huge player to have a couple largemouth each day, kind of propel my bag over that 17 and 20 pound mark right there. So slid out a little bit deeper in that same ditch right here. I'll hook into one here. This is actually about 3.5, 4 pound largemouth. Still throwing that Demiki rig. Like I said, I've kind of slipped out in that 50, 60 foot range to get this one to bite. So definitely promising to see this big largemouth out there deep. But my only concern is these ditches aren't super sneaky, and I'm sure a lot of the guys were going to find them, which they did, which most of the stuff I found early in the week in practice, the 30, 40 fish schools I'd find kind of dwindled to 3, 4, 5 fish just swimming around, and most of them didn't bite. So definitely had to make a lot of adjustments from the start of practice to the end of the event when the tournament actually started. But we actually did have 2 complete off days. We were only supposed to have 1, but due to some of the ice and snow, we were gifted another off day, which really helped a lot of these fish set up and get back to biting before the tournament started. So still rolling around here, looking at a couple of ditches. This is a little bit later in the afternoon. This is another 3-pound spot, maybe a little bit bigger, but just primarily sticking with that Demiki rig. That's one of my confidence baits. Whenever I'm faced with clear water, herring fishing this time of year in the winter, that's definitely a presentation you'll need to master to stay competitive. In today's tournament fishing, with all the technology and everything, it's kind of inevitable. You got to be really proficient with that bait just to stay competitive in a lot of these tournaments nowadays. So definitely kind of sticking to that and seeing what kind of size bag I can get on this first day of practice using this bait and technique. So we'll go ahead and get this one in right there. Like I said, it's probably about 3.5, not quite 4, but maybe 3.75. It's definitely a pretty big spot for Clarksville, no doubt. There we go. Nice one right there. So we're kicking things off. This is day 2 of practice out there bright and early again. It is absolutely frigid. I believe it was 20-something degrees, so I'm definitely bundled up, moving really slow, trying to get my rods out. But first fish of the day right here, I'll zoom in on the live scope real quick, and you can see there's one solo under a bait ball. This ended up being about a 4.5-pound largemouth. You can see him eat right there. So definitely that kind of clued me into a little bit of a morning bite, starting a little bit shallower in some of these ditches or banks, just kind of looking a little bit shallow for the first hour, hour and a half to try to get one of those key largemouth bites. That actually did not transpire for me in the tournament. I had a lot of boats on some of the areas I want to start on. So I kind of immediately went to that mid-range to deeper fish. Definitely would have loved to connect on a few big ones early in the morning, but was able to stay focused and get some of those bites throughout both days of the tournament. So you can see right there, definitely a quality largemouth right there. One I would not have a problem weighing it at all. That one's probably 4, 4.5, so definitely really good largemouth for sure right there. Caught that one on the Demiki rig. Again, we'll keep bouncing around here, and I think we're actually going to jump to the first day of the tournament. Got the national anthem right there. The final day of practice, it was blowing pretty hard and some of the worst conditions I've ever fished in on the lake with snow and ice, so definitely wasn't doing too much recording. I was pretty miserable out there just trying to focus on finding a couple extra schools and zones. So do apologize for not getting that last day of practice, but it was pretty unbearable out there. So we're taking off right here. I believe we're about 33 this morning heading out. So going to go ahead and get launched and run down to the first spot. Really impressed with how well Bassmaster runs these tournaments with the check-in, launch, and when we weigh in. Super professional. Everything was run extremely smoothly. I was really impressed with that being my first Bassmaster Opens. They use pretty much the same system from high school, college, Opens, and the Elite, so it's definitely something I'm really accustomed to with the boat check-in and boat launch, but definitely still impressed with how smooth they get those boats out of there and on the water in a timely fashion for sure. So we're about to launch right here and start heading down the lake. Started in a couple areas. First thing in the morning, I didn't save any of those clips, caught 1 or 2 small ones, but definitely missed a couple opportunities with some of those big wolf-packing largemouth, but definitely kind of picked things up. That 8:30 to 9 to 10 o'clock really started to get after them and actually boated 2 really quality largemouth on the first day. All right, guys, so we got to about the third or the fourth stop right here. catch. I think the first one I ended up putting in the box right here is about 2.5 pounder. Definitely not one we want at the end of the day, but huge for the momentum, just getting the kind of jitters out, being in the first big tournament like this of the year. Definitely needed that fish to kind of settle me down and point me in the right direction. Now we slid into my secondary ditch. About an hour later, I hook into this one right here. This one was a really, really key fish for me day one. It was a 4-pound largemouth I caught right here on a jigging spoon. I saw some of these fish rise on a bait ball at about 30, 40 foot of water, pitched that spoon out there and got one of them to eat. That was a really critical fish to kind of point me in the right direction and nevertheless give me a lot more confidence in what I'm doing and continue to keep growing that bag. Definitely fighting this fish a little bit slow. I can kind of tell when these largemouth bite, they don't fight too hard. It just kind of feels like you're reeling in dead weight for most of it. But there we go right there. Like I said, nice 4-pounder to get us pointed in the right direction. So still out here. Actually ran to another spot. This is a shallow zone I found. Couple of brush piles, scattered stumps, things like that. Throwing a shaky head to these fish right here. Got one of them to bite right here. I didn't know it was that big. It's another 4-pounder. So definitely one I needed to land. We'll see it in 1 second right here. There we go, guys. Yep, that's another 4-pounder. I'm calling out about a 2.5 pound spot. So I think at this point I'm about at 15 pounds, but definitely having a mixture of some of those shallow and deep fish was something that really helped me in this tournament. A lot of those guys were just banking on deep fish, and with this many boats out there and this lake fishing kind of small on the lower end, it definitely played to have both kind of in my arsenal to bounce in between the two. If a boat was on a ditch I wanted to go to, I simply just hit a shallow zone around there. This is a little bit later in the afternoon right here. Still fishing shallow for the most part. I think I'm throwing either a Nico rig or a drop shot right here. This is a 3.5 pound spot that culled out one of my smaller 2.25. So definitely another good fish. At this point, this fish will put me right over 17 pounds, which we'll end the day with, but only had 2 largemouth that day, those 2 over 4 pounds that really saved me, and then had some other decent spots. But would have loved to get a couple more of those quality largemouth bites, but definitely thankful for the ones we were able to weigh in right there. So it's a nice, I think 3.5 pound spot that culled out that other small one right there. And then this is us getting back to check in right here. We're about to weigh in. All right, guys, we're launching on day 2 right here. Have a much later boat number. I think we're boat 129 due in at 4:25. So definitely a lot more fishing time towards the afternoon. So I kind of skipped the back of the ditches this morning just with that later boat number. That's kind of an ordeal that goes down just for a few minutes until that sun hits those trees and those fish begin sliding out. So went ahead and started in about 20 or 30 foot of water looking for those fish on those bait balls, trying to capitalize on a few. Ended up catching a lot of just 1-pounders and 2-pounders, but I think this first clip right here is the first one that I hooked into. As we pull up there, it was a 4.25 pound spot, so definitely a really big spotted bass for Clarksville. Happy to take that one to weigh in. I caught a couple 4-pound spots on the second day, which really helped my bag. Those are not fish you can usually bank on at Clarksville. A really good spot on that lake is over 3 pounds. So here's that first one, that first good one of the day that I connected with right there. On that Demiki rig, actually lost one right there and then connected with that 4-pounder. You can see, definitely can tell it's a little bit bigger fish. I don't know how big it is at the time, but definitely not another one of those 2-pounders. So really kind of stressing out, making sure I land this fish. It's going to be really important for today's bag to get that one in the boat. But I was starting out in these ditches, like I said, a little bit shallower in the morning. Seems like there's a lot more fish in the back of them. And then as that sun gets up, I kind of progressively got a little bit deeper, which is something I'm extremely familiar with just by fishing linear a ton. It's pretty much the same thing with ditch fishing there. The only change with Clarksville is there's a lot more largemouth present. There we go right there. Just boated that 4-pounder. So definitely really critical fish to get things going. This is another like 2.5. I think it was a small upgrade for me out of that same ditch. I'm already in that kind of 40 to 50 foot zone, just picking out some isolated fish, roaming on bait. Flip that one in there real quick. Yep, little 2-pounder, but still thankful just to get a lot of those fish in the boat early, kind of settle down and get my head in the right position for the rest of the day of fishing. Still throwing that Damiki right here. It kind of seemed like the most popular technique for this tournament. Like I said, it's just one of those things you got to do and you got to be proficient with in today's age of fishing, especially when you're faced with clear water. Herring fish, it's a bait in the winter that really, truly dominates for sure. So we're pulling up back into my secondary ditch, day 2, and I saw a couple fish a little bit deeper out here on day 1 I didn't spend enough time on, but day 2 made the correct adjustment. Pulled up here, caught another 4-pounder pretty much off the rip, and sadly, I caught a 6 6.25 pound largemouth, my second cast in here as well. Unfortunately, did not get that one on film, just with so much going on with culling fish and trying to stay dialed on this school. So I apologize for missing that one, but definitely got pretty much everything else from day 2 on film for sure. As you can see, just trying to taunt this one. He's following it for a long time. Drop it to another one, immediately get him to bite. Like I said, this was another 4-pounder, so definitely one I'd be very happy to take to weigh in for me. And a lot of the times when you hook these fish on a Damiki, you can kind of tell what size they are. Like I said, the largemouth out here, they kind of just feel like dead weight, but a lot of these spots will surge and dig and fight for a pretty good while. So definitely going to try to get this one on the boat and continue the momentum rolling into this day. Now, something I wasn't super comfortable with going to this tournament is just landing them by grabbing them. I usually have a partner with a net or something, but over the past couple months, I've been practicing grabbing them, which is definitely a big adjustment for me, but definitely makes it a little bit more fun when you got them coming up boat side and you pretty much get a couple shots at them, if not once, to get those fish in the boat. So still rolling around here in the secondary ditch that I pulled into. Still shaking a minnow, trying to get a little bit bigger bag. I think we have just over 16 pounds right now with that 6-pounder. Still got a couple small ones in my bag that I'm trying to call out. So this ends up being, I think, a 3-ish pound spot right here. So definitely another good call to keep us pointing in the right direction. Then after this, similar to the day 1, I'm going to rotate back shallow, catch a couple on a drop shot and a Nico rig that really helped out. So definitely having kind of a 2-pronged approach where I had multiple opportunities, not at just deep fish, kind of having some sneakier shallow stuff I found. And practice was a huge player in this tournament for me. Definitely the deep bite was predominant. A lot of those guys committed deep and had really good bags, but I kind of like to mix it up and just know I'm fishing a little bit fresher water at times. So this is me rolling shallow with that drop shot right here, hooking to, I think, a 3-pound largemouth. So definitely another little call to get rid of one of those spots. Believe it bumps me up a little bit. Not sure exactly how much weight I had at the time, but this is one of the third to last calls I made during the day. It's still fairly early, 10, 11 o'clock, so definitely a key fish, just keep the momentum rolling into the afternoon for sure. Now, these shallow fish, with the water temperature being super cold, it often took them a couple minutes to bite. I had to soak that bait, make a really precise cast, and even throw way past these fish to get them to bite. Usually you can put it on their heads and they'll bite it pretty quick, but definitely with that colder water temperature, it can be a little bit tricky at times to get those fish to bite. This is another one I hooked up on a drop shot right here. Still fishing that kind of 5 to 10 foot range, just isolated stumps and rock that I found during the practice. This one is, I believe, about a 3.25 pound largemouth, so gets rid of another one of those smaller spots to bump me up a little bit in my bag for sure. So I spent the majority of the afternoon kind of hunting shallow, looking for one of those really big 5-6 pound bites up there. I've been seeing a lot of them. It's just really hard to get them to bite. And then towards the end of the day right here, I actually rolled back to that second ditch I fished in the morning and caught another 4-pound spot right here that really helped my bag and kind of solidify me at that over 20-pound mark. So pulled up to that same kind of contour stretch, another group of them pulled up on a bait ball right here. Had one fall on it, drop it to the other one, immediately connect with him right there. Like I said, this is my last call of the day. It's a 4-pound spot that definitely helped me get to that over 20-pound mark for sure. fish is fighting pretty hard. Definitely need to land this one. I can tell it's one that's going to help out my bag a lot. So really thankful to get this one in the boat right here. Appreciate y'all tuning in to today's video of that recap of Clarksville. Definitely love, enjoy bringing this tournament footage to y'all. Let me know if y'all enjoy this down in the comments below. A couple of my key setups were just the NRX 852 plus right there. That's my kind of go-to spinning rod. It's a 7-1 medium fast. We're throwing that Demiki rig on there with that Queen tackle live sonar jig head. Had that paired up with that 3.5 Echo and a Rapala Mooch minnow. Those are two awesome options for winter fishing out there for sure. And the shallow fish, I was throwing a either drop shot or Nico rig 2 on that same rod. Now, if you haven't checked out my Fish Tips account, I have a report on there, some more detailed stuff, kind of how I was going about doing those presentations and finding those areas exactly. And I also have a subscriber channel for Lake Lanier that breaks down my bi-weekly updates of what we're doing, consistently catching those really big bags out there on Lanier. So definitely check out all that down below for sure. If y'all are interested in getting out on Lanier on a guide trip, my website will be linked down below too. Other than that, we'll see y'all in the next one. We'll be heading to Sam Rayburn in about a week. So really excited to bring that tournament footage to y'all as well. Y'all stay tuned.